eventually you get absorbed in, and you are Sonic.
It's been 1 week since the last episode of No Repeat, a podcast where we pick 3 songs every week with no repeats and no do-overs to create a perfect playlist for every occasion life throws at you. I'm Taylor Olmstead, and I'm joined this week by my co-hosts, Tyler Reed.
Haven't you always wanted a monkey?
And Sean Evans.
Closing time. Open up.
All right. Yes.
Well done, sir. Well done. We're not here to talk about Semisonic, though. We're continuing our Artists of the 90s series by talking about Barenaked Ladies this week. But Tyler, if people have ideas for a challenge or a band that they want us to do a deep dive on, where can they send us those?
Wowie zowie, boys and girls, non-binary folk. You can DM us, add us, Instagram or Twitter, or our Facebook group, No Repeat Pod, or you can send us an email, norepeatpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much.
All right, so Barenaked Ladies, they've been in the game for a long time. Formed outside of Toronto in 1988. Started to blow up with a self-titled release in 1991. And by the time their debut album, Gordon, came out in 1992, they were pretty popular in Canada, but a few of the singles from that album really crossed them over into the US, and they became kind of staples of pop rock and alternative rock radio throughout the 90s and early 2000s. They really epitomize, in my mind, the adult contemporary rock of that time, largely inoffensive, kind of simple melodies, but maybe there's a distinguishing factor for each band, right? Weezer was kind of the heavier, more metal and punk influenced version. Barenaked Ladies, it's all about the harmonies. All of them sing to some degree, and so they're doing these multi-part harmonies on their songs that really kind of set them above a band that maybe only has one singer. They've had a number of huge hit singles. I'm sure we'll talk about a few of them. They're perhaps most known now for creating the theme song for The Big Bang Theory, a show that I hate, and the theme song of which I hate even more, which is saying a lot.
Get that money.
We can all just assume that everybody, the Dudes Brunch No Repeat franchise, dislikes Big Bang in its entirety.
You have to.
Yes.
You have to. It's a requisite of listening to this podcast, unfortunately.
I know. I'm sure we got a lot of Big Bang heads out there.
Sorry.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the cliff notes of the Barenaked Ladies. What do you guys remember about them? What is your experience with them? How have you encountered BNL over the years?
Oh, can I talk about why this challenge was picked?
Yeah, go ahead.
This? Okay. So next month, we're going to see Barenaked Ladies. And I had their what was their one that had kind of the Paste Together figure on the front of it?
That would be Stunt from 1999. Okay.
That was one of the first CDs that my parents got me when I was a kid.
It's a good one.
And I don't really, it was fine. But as I've gotten older, I don't really care much for the Barenaked Ladies. And I'm going to this show because my wife really likes them, and I, want to support her, and so I want to be prepared. I know that Barenaked Ladies is one of these bands that just has a ton of hits, so I'm sure I'll know a lot of the set.
A ton is maybe saying a lot.
Okay, they have a lot of. They
got a handful. They got at least one greatest hit CD worth of hits.
Yeah, but I mean that's something, So basically, I wanted to have this challenge to get us back to our roots, right? Where give us challenges that help you do stuff, because I need help with this. I don't really want to listen to Barenaked Ladies. I don't. I need a few good songs so I can go to this concert and enjoy it and know the lyrics to some stuff. Like, I don't want to be that guy who's just there feeling weird about a band that I know much about. So
That's the majority of the concerts I've been to lately, like the one we went to literally yesterday.
So that, yeah. But yes, if you have challenges, to what Tyler said, that you need help with, that are actually meant to help you, don't be afraid to put them in there. We'll do wild and crazy ass stuff. But if you actually have stuff that you need help with, let us know and we'll do it for you. Because I asked for this. I needed help. I need to be prepared for this concert.
For any occasion life throws at you.
Right, exactly.
The real question was, or the real challenge for this was, my wife wants to go to a Barenaked Ladies concert, and I have only a cursory understanding of the artist in question, so I need to listen up, and I need a good excuse to do it because I won't listen on my own volition.
Yeah, rip away all the heartfelt stuff that I said, and Tyler nailed it. Ass.
Tyler, do you have a strong backstory with Barenaked Ladies or anything like that?
I suppose so. So I think there's two specific like touch points that really stuck in my mind. I definitely remember sleeping on like the couch in like my parents' first house, and like MTV was like on, and I'm pretty sure Pinch Me was playing, and I did have like a sexual awakening, but I was sort of like, it was scandalous that there was a band called Barenaked Ladies. And I found the song like very compelling, I was like intrigued by it. I was like, ooh, this is not something I've really heard before. So I didn't necessarily like seek them out at that point, but I was like intrigued by it. And then the next point was when the Digimon movie came out in the year 2000. It surprisingly has a decent soundtrack on it, and which one of the songs is One Week. So, I bought the soundtrack for that, and then I eventually bought like their greatest hits. And
do you remember which greatest hits CD you had? Because they've put out a couple.
Yes, it's let me scroll on back. It was their like 1990 to 2001 greatest hits disc 1. Let's see.
Yep. Okay. So I'm glad that was the one, because I got that one. I got that one from the library, I think. My dad had a copy of Gordon, their debut studio album, but then he didn't really have any other Barenaked Ladies in his collection. And I really liked Gordon. He played it around the house a lot when I was a little kid. And so it was kind of like, oh, I know this band. I've heard some of their stuff before, and I got that greatest hits. And I really, really enjoyed it. I thought they were super fun. I was kind of a preteen at the time. I feel like that's like the right age to get into Barenaked Ladies, because you can appreciate some of the sense of humor, even if you don't get a lot of the pop cultural references. And so it's kind of got this like nostalgia for me, because it was this band that was like one of the early bands that I listened to. I was kind of into their album Everything to Everyone when it came out around the same time, about 2003, although listening back to it this week, I found that it hasn't aged as well as I thought it might have. But going back through this catalog this week, I was reminded of just so many memories I have from that time, and how like happy these songs make me, despite the fact that they may not all be happy songs. Like, I think Barenaked Ladies are kind of masters of that 90s technique of writing a song that feels happy, and then you read the lyrics and they're actually quite sad, which always kind of made them feel a little more grown up to me. I don't know if you guys had that impression. Like, yes, they have childish humor in some of their songs, but it felt like a band that like I could like as a kid, but I was never going to really get it. Like, I felt like it was one of those things I would understand when I was older, and now I am older and I do. Do you guys have that feeling?
I like to stare longingly at Sean when I feel like I want to press him. I'm like, I'm not gonna say that to Sean. You tell me how you feel.
Go for it.
You're the
No,
hater.
no.
You're the hater here.
No.
I could already sense you.
After you.
So I feel like I kind of joked about this when we first put this challenge in, that I was like, these are just Canadian, they might be giants. Which I feel like they're like definitely like nerdcore. What would we call this genre of like nerdy like pop rock? Like, cause there's a few like bands I feel like in that genre. Like what do we call Weezer? Weezer's like kind of early Weezer was kind of goofy.
I feel like modern day Weezer is more goofy than early Weezer.
Okay, well that's fair. But like comedy rock,
that is one of the things that's listed on their Wikipedia page.
oh,
Yeah.
Comedy rock, geek rock,
okay, geek rock sounds right.
college rock. Let's see. Wikipedia says geek rock, also known as nerd rock or dork rock, is a musical subgenre derived from pop rock and alternative rock. It is characterized by standard instruments of rock music, often combined with electronic and unusual instruments, references to geek culture, and specialized yet mundane interests, whimsy, and offbeat humor in general. Yeah, I would put this in that. Let's see.
What's the geek rock artist? Who's in there?
Barenaked Ladies, Crash Test Dummies, They Might Be Giants,
Boingo.
Violent Femmes, Aquabats, Ben Folds 5. Yeah. I would say that makes sense to me.
But yeah, I mean, I can't, Motion City soundtrack. I wouldn't get too crazy, but that's a bit of a fusion. But I feel like kind of growing up, there's a certain style of entertainment that you sort of like watch or like consume in the hopes that you're like, oh, I think this is a little above me, and I'm gonna like consume it because I like want to be cool. Like late night like talk shows, like watching like Conan O'Brien. I'm like, I don't know if I understand what's happening, but I think this is smart. And I don't know if necessarily Barenaked Ladies like necessarily like scratches that itch necessarily. But I do feel like they do like pull from like a lot of sort of like little like references and things. And I think that no, you're right. Yeah. They definitely have a sense of. I think as a kid you kind of want those little references to like sort of like pull at, and then you kind of learn about the world. It's like sort of in the same way that like Family Guy, when it first came out, was like endearing, which of course then it's sort of we don't got to talk about Family Guy. We already know how it went. But yeah, so that sort of stuff I feel like for the young mind is really appetizing.
Or even like Simpsons to a degree. Like I think there's a Simpsons-esque humor to Barenaked Ladies, as well as the sensation that like you know something is a joke, but you don't know why it's funny. And then years later, after you've like seen The Godfather, you get what the joke in the Simpsons episode was. Like that's how I felt a lot listening to Barenaked Ladies growing up. Well, should we get into some picks?
Yeah. Can we go chronologically?
Chronologically.
Who goes
which
first
would
then?
mean that Tyler is going first.
This week, I chose If I Had $1 Million by Barenaked Ladies.
And if I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, well, I'd buy you a K car, a nice reliant automobile. And if I had $1 million, I'd buy you love. If I had $1 million, I'd build a tree fort in our yard.
So I'd already chosen Pinch Me, already on the playlist, and I feel like that is sort of like my favorite. You know, I feel like it's pretty easy to say between Pinch Me and One Week are probably some of the best general Barenaked Ladies songs. And so, I wasn't going to do the easy thing. I wasn't going to say 1 week, because listen, that's a great song, and that could be used for other things. So I feel like what I wanted to do is I wanted to sort of try to find a track that I feel like really was indicative of sort of like one of the things that I did like about them, or like a specific facet. I was the last to submit to this week, and I kind of like looked at kind of what you all picked a little bit, and I was like, well, okay, let's do this one, because I kind of wanted a little bit of variety, and I feel like this one gives you a little bit more to talk to. It's got a little bit more meat on the bones to kind of chew on there. And so what I feel like this one does really well is that it is interesting in its composition, and that it has a little bit of like sort of like almost like a Charlie Brown sounded piano to it. It's got some like little almost like country like strings to it. I think are nice little touches. The part where Taylor said they're a little smart, and it's kind of funny, and it kind of really picks at the part that I think makes them great, is that there's a sort of like real cleverness. The part where he says, buy you a fur coat, but not a real fur coat, that's cruel, and then follows up a few bars later by saying, buy you a green dress, but not a real green dress, that's cruel, which I think is, you're like, wait, what's happening? I mean, we wouldn't just, we'd have so much money, we could eat a lot of craft dinner, we'd still eat the same stuff, but just more of it. You're like, oh, that's quaint. And I think Dijon ketchup is also a very funny line. I've explained the joke, which is the least funny thing you could possibly do. So I mean, just between a few different like notes there, I find that it's clever. I'm like, huh, hee hee, hoo hoo. And I just think that's I just thought it was a little different than kind of what y'all picked, and I like the song, and I think it's worth sharing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think this is one of the quintessential Barenaked Ladies tracks. It was one of the earliest songs they wrote for the project. It was actually written while two of the members were camp counselors, and they came up with it on the bus taking the kids back to camp from a field trip, which is an adorable story. They were just listing off things to the kids that they would buy if they had $1 million. What I didn't realize until this week is that a lot of the purchases listed in the song are actually jokes on things that Michael Jackson bought throughout the 80s, including his attempt to purchase the remains of the Elephant Man, which was apparently a real thing that Michael Jackson actually did. Michael Jackson, of course, did famously own a pet monkey, and he bought his friend Elizabeth Taylor a sparkling emerald green dress with, quote, not real emeralds. So it turns out there's jokes within the jokes, which I think is just so perfectly like Barenaked Ladies. It's, on first blush, it's a cute pop song, and then you keep peeling back, and there's all these layers of pop culture underneath it that just amplify the enjoyment of it. And it's cute. It's fun. It's fun to sing. I have not seen them. I've heard their shows are amazing. I bet this song is a blast to get everybody singing along to. Okay karaoke song.
Karaoke.
I think because of the banter.
Yeah.
There are like sections of spoken word banter during this song that I don't think would translate to karaoke.
No, you're right.
Or at least not with one person.
Yeah. They do also have 5-part harmonies on this song, which is nice to hear.
Woof.
I know this song. This is what I mean when I say that there's lots of songs out there that you probably have heard of that are Barenaked Ladies songs. I think what is off-putting is the humor part. Maybe that's why I don't like their music. It's the humor part.
Sean says, I don't want to funny haha.
Not into Ben Folds like that, because I'm not there.
Sean says, I don't want to tee-hee, I want to express my primal rage.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I was listening to a podcast this week where they had a folk writer, blanking on his name right now, Jake McComb or something, probably sounds right. And he was talking about how he lives in a heavy place, and this like influences his writing, his like music. And I was like, oh yeah, that does sound right. Like that does sound like me. I do live in it. Maybe that's why I don't like having fun.
Could be.
Yeah.
Is that true? You don't like having fun, Sean?
Oh, I hate having... No. Says a guy that says this and he has a pickleball shirt on.
Listen, you're allowed to mix your peanut butter and your jelly sometimes, Sean. You can have some humor in your music. It's okay.
Okay. All right. I'll think about it.
But not this time.
Okay.
He says not this time.
Listen, if Between the Buried and Me wrote a joke album, it's called Colors.
That's right.
They teach us what it was out there.
Well, Sean, your song is actually next.
Oh,
so
okay.
Why don't you go on ahead and tell us about it?
So in a kind of humorous way, my song is the Barenaked Ladies' Alternative Girlfriend.
Old at being young, young at being old. Everything's on hold within our evolution. You're my alternative girlfriend. I love you, now you cannot pretend.
So for those of you who haven't heard Alternative Girlfriend, which was me until today, well, first I wanted to find a song that was probably a deeper cut, that sounded famous enough for people to know that they would still want to play it on tour. And this is the right type of humor for me, describing what it means to date an alternative girlfriend, to have an alternative girlfriend. And it was funny. And that's why I picked it. Because I thought it had just the right level of humor. Because I'm basically a bear, like, I'm Goldilocks and I'm looking for the right porridge and the right mattress and everything. It has to be just right. It can't be too hot or too cold. Just like that. But it had a tolerable amount of acoustic guitars. It has more electric guitar than a regular Barenaked Ladies song, which is great. The word flip is not said in it at all. I don't know. I thought it was just a good song. And something I could relate to. I've had a lot of alternative girlfriends. And I love them. I like alternative girls. Yeah. I know Tyler.
Listen, he's got a type, and he picked a song about his type.
Tyler and I... Tyler's like, yep, I see you.
Game recognized game. This is
feelings.
This is a great one. It was a single. It's not a huge hit. It does get included on greatest hits compilations. And yeah, I think it's a great example of, like you said, funny without being too jokey. They've said that this was their attempt to kind of take the air out of the grunge scene, which I think this works at very well. Like, it's clearly not a grunge song, right?
No.
It's a Barenaked Ladies song. But they're riffing on the ideas of the grunge scene and, like, how alternative these people are when they all look and act and dress the same, which is not a new insight, but they do it in this kind of cute love song way, which is fun. And I think just like as a pop song, it's really tight. Like, it demonstrates their ability to craft really memorable melodies. Like, this chorus will just get stuck in your head for days on end. And that's probably what they're best at.
Somehow, it just now occurred to me that they existed within a time frame of grunge existence.
Yeah, this was 1994. This is peak grunge.
Wild.
The peak grunge, anti-grunge song of ungrunge your grunge.
So I think one of my favorite parts about this is I do think they're really good at writing riffs. I think they got really, really slick riffs sometimes, because there's like a nice, like, sort of like a little riff that they put in there, like right before, like going back into like a chorus. That part, it might even be a bass part, but I think that's a extra little like flavor that, you know, I kind of wasn't really expecting out of them for that. I feel like sometimes they just kind of just do big sort of like acoustic sound. And I feel like maybe sometimes the guitar isn't necessarily like the star, but I feel like this one has a little bit more of a guitar focus. I think that's kind of nice. It certainly feels like sort of like the black sheep. I feel like in terms of like our kind of like our selections here, because you're right, it does have a lot more. Feels like it has a much more electric, crunchy feel to it, and that's kind of a nice sort of like flavor refresh. You know, kind of gives you like, so it's not all literally the same thing.
Right.
And I feel like it should definitely be noted they have a decent amount of range. Like there's definitely like enough sounds that are kind of happening even between our songs that makes it okay. So like you put on an album, or at least you throw together some singles together, it's gonna feel pretty different.
Yeah.
And so I feel like this one gives a very like necessary sort of like tone shift. And like you said, this is a little bit, you know, maybe not as jokey, funny-y, but just more feels more straight up.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's probably never going to be like their biggest hit ever, but it's like you gotta have. I've always been curious about the songwriting process in regards to like how to make like a good strong album. It's like just and it's mixing an album. I think I'm always curious about that, and I feel like it'd be really interested to sort of like learn about their process in that regard.
Well, and I think what's interesting to your point, Tyler, is we picked 3 songs off of 3 consecutive records, their first 3 records. So your song was off of Gordon in 92, Sean's song is off of Maybe You Should Drive, which comes out in 1994, and then my song is off of Born on a Pirate Ship, which came out in 1997. So we're really like capturing their early evolution as we go through these 3 picks.
That is quite a shift, though.
Yeah, for sure. And you can hear like certain concepts being like emphasized, certain concepts being dropped, but they've always played around with genre. But I do think, to your point, like that heavier sound there, I think a big part of that is just having access to more equipment, longer time in the studio. Like if I had $1 million, it's basically acoustic guitar and vocals. Like there's not a lot to it. It's pretty rough. It's pretty skeletal.
Right.
Here you've got full on production.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like my song is kind of like somewhere in between the two. It's kind of interesting to do them in this chronological order because I think like aesthetically my song is closer to Sean's because it's a little more acoustic in places. But let's just get into it. This week I chose The Old Apartment by Barenaked Ladies.
Broke into the old apartment. This is where we used to live. Broken glass, broken hungry, broken hearts and broken bones. This is where we used to live. Why did you paint the walls?
So like I said, this song is a little more maybe what you would think about when you think of Barenaked Ladies. It is like an electric acoustic kind of mid-tempo power ballad-ish thing. Co-written by one of the members of Duran Duran, which is just a fun fact. But this was kind of their big first like breakthrough single in the United States. One of the actors from Beverly Hills 90210 directed the music video, and the band was featured playing this song on Beverly Hills 90210, which was a big thing at the time. There was a band on almost every episode of that show, and it was kind of like a taste-making thing. And so this song, I think, is well remembered by people who were alive at the time or who are Barenaked Ladies fans, but it's been eclipsed by things like If I Had $1 Million in like the larger zeitgeist. Like you don't hear this one on rock radio as much. But I have always loved this song. It's the first song on that Greatest Hits CD Tyler and I were talking about. So it's like, in my opinion, a perfect first impression of what this band is. It's got this really like fascinating dark nostalgia to the lyrics. it's about a man who goes back to his old apartment and ends up breaking in just so he can wander around and reminisce about his past life. And I feel like that is such a great, like, dark pop concept.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he really goes through the most, like, mundane issues, but they are the kinds of things that you would notice if you came back to your old place, right? Why did you keep the mousetrap? Why did you keep the dish rack? These things used to be mine. I guess they still are. I want them back. Like, it just gets progressively angrier. I've also always loved the section that's about, how is the neighbor downstairs? How is her temper this year? I turned up your TV and stomped on the floor just for fun. It's like so petty and stupid. But the nostalgia of this, like you said, Tyler, the riff, iconic riff, just like power chords, big echoey, almost obnoxiously echoey rock drums. Like, this song rocks much harder than it needs to for what it is, but that's what makes it so fun. And almost every time I've moved in my life, I have, like, blasted this song whenever I am leaving a place or moving into a new place, because it just, like, it has such a fun, like, closure, nostalgia feeling to it.
You know, Mr. Barenaked Lady really feels like
Dr. Mr. Barenaked Lady Esquire, thank you.
He's a little unhinged, isn't he? The character, I feel like, that's portrayed in these songs is like, are you okay? Like, deeply
well, so this
unwell
song was primarily written by Stephen Page, who had a bout of drug addiction, cocaine possession, got arrested, and eventually left Barenaked Ladies. So one could argue there was some stuff going on there. I don't know enough about him to really say.
Sure.
But he has said publicly since that he suffers from bipolar disorder and was largely untreated during the 90s. So could be
Well,
part of
that makes
it.
a lot of sense. Right. And remember, folks, get help if you can.
But there's like a goofiness to the unhinged nature in this song, right?
Yeah. But even still, it's like, I feel like there's a sort of, this like kind of guy doesn't exist anymore. Like, in like rock, like storytelling. Like, I feel like this is sort of like how I feel like I said a couple episodes ago, like slacker rock sort of like has just sort of like evaporated. Like, we don't have like guys who just like sit around and don't do anything all day.
I don't know, man. Mac DeMarco, Kurt Vile, these people are out there.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
not
right.
to prove you wrong. I think it has transformed into a more folky place.
Yeah.
That the Barenaked Ladies started at, and then went more guitar-esque, and then now it feels like it's back in this place.
But those are like, compared to like Green Day at the time,
No,
it was like,
yeah,
like
right.
It was like the forefront of like, this is, if you're writing a song in the 90s, you gotta be bored. But no. Yeah,
Take
but
that, Pearl Jam.
I do feel like in this one in particular, sort of like the chorus is a little like, ooh, it's a little bit more powerful. Like, it's really, really belting. I feel like that's really the big kind of like takeaway from this one. And in terms of the performance, I think this is a good track. I think we all pick good tracks. I feel like, no, this is good. It's not like as kooky as some of the other ones until you actually like read the lyrics. Because let me be honest, I didn't actually read the lyrics until like today, and I'm like, oh, he's breaking into the old apartment. I thought when I was just listening to it passively, I was like, oh, he's just like walking in. He knocked on the door.
Right, it's just reminiscing on the past.
Yeah.
No, he literally mentions punching a hole in the door.
Right. Ripping the phone out of the wall. He's basically destroying it. Like, he comes in and observes it, then it's an utter destruction. And I think right before the second chorus, let's the lyric like, why did I break in when I just came here to talk? Mm-hmm. And then that's when the destruction starts to happen. And this is the part where, okay, so now I feel like I understand this band a little bit better, is the humor has developed here. And I think maybe that's why this band endears a little bit, is because there are probably situations that everybody goes through in their life that you have to approach with humor in order to move on with it, your life. And the Barenaked Ladies have figured out the formula to capture that in music.
Are you saying you've broken into your old apartment, Sean? Is that what you're saying?
No, I have not. Now that I live here, have I driven by some of the places that I used to live? Yes, I have not broken in, though. It's an unnecessary part. I can reflect. No, I'm not. I have no plans to break into those places.
Do you have anything else to say about this song, Sean?
This is one of those songs that I reference all the time. Whenever we go someplace and I hate how it looks, I sing that. Why did they paint the walls? Just like, it used to be so much better than this, even though I'd never been there before, just as a joke. So I have referenced this song in the past. Just there's like another. I think I like do that lyric with another joke from Futurama, where there's like a lighter shade of beige. Yeah, so it's like, why did they paint the walls a lighter shade of beige? It's just, like, it's funny. But whatever. Sorry, it's just my thing. So.
No, I get it. I'm here with you. I get the joke.
This is yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the wink. And listeners, you can't see this. Tyler is winking at me, and his eyes broken now. He's
help. Ugh.
Well, let's go to the listener board. Do we have any submissions this week?
Oh,
we did.
Oh, we do.
Oh,
don't you worry.
Sweet. Hold on. This is gonna take a second while it loads, but
not as many as I thought.
Okay.
But more the Dave Matthews Band, so suck it. Suck it, Dave.
Get out of here, Dave.
Shut up. All right, so this is 237 Barenaked Ladies.
Mr. Matthews was my father.
We have Lazy Boy Loops picked Old Apartment, so there we go. Ding, ding. We have a... Oh, man, there's a lot of Old Apartment here, which is great. So, the Old Coin... Is that...
The Old Kanye.
Kanye, yeah, the Old Kanye. Picked Brian Wilson or the Old Apartment. Old Apartment's gotten a lot of play.
Good luck with that next one.
Yes, Hemik 345 picked 1 week.
Classic. How can you say no?
And then
we've picked that already, right?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think we picked 1 week. I have to look it up. I don't think we have though. Oh. And then Jack left us a comment and a song. Says, I had Everything to Everyone on CD when I was a kid and listened to it a lot. Coming back to them kept me wanting to compare them to Weezer, which is right. They are the Canadian Weezer. Hey, if anybody ever called a band that I was in the Canadian Weezer, I would be so happy.
We are unapologetically big Weezer fans on this podcast. And it's not like we listen to every Weezer release. It's more, we saw Weezer at a festival one time and we all agreed they're a very good band with a lot of songs that you know. And there's a place for that in the culture. So yeah, I think calling someone the Canadian Weezer is more than a compliment.
Yeah.
I just had to listen to Pork and Beans a lot in the early 2000s, and I just kind of can't come back from that. And so
listen, they have also committed some sins against rock and roll. Beverly Hills should never have existed.
Hey, that's where he wants to be.
It's where I want to be. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Tyler's going to do the things he wants to do, and if he hates Weezer, then that's just boo to you.
Beverly Hills.
Right. I'm just saying, they got the Muppets to be in a video. So ask yourself what you've done right with your life. Well, with that, it's time for not listener B-sides, our B-sides. These were songs that were so close to...
Being bare naked?
Yeah, exactly.
Being a lady?
Lay your soul bare naked in front of us with your B-sides. That also sounded really, really wrong.
The listeners pointed this one out too, but I love the song Brian Wilson. I almost picked it. If you haven't heard it, it's great. It's about Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys and how he became a recluse in the 70s. Falling for the First Time is great, but I think it's a little overplayed. I also had Alternative Girlfriend on my list, and let's say probably Too Little Too Late would have been my last one.
Probably It's All Been Done. That would have been my other one.
Uh-huh.
That song gets stuck in my head still to this day sometimes. Yeah.
That's a
That
great
would have
one.
been it. Yeah.
Enid.
Deep cut.
Too Little Too Late. Falling for the first time, of course. It's All Been Done. Those are all ones I almost selected.
We were all in the same headspace. Look at that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
There's a lot of good songs. There's a lot of them, but I feel like if we're picking just the cream of the crop, I feel like that's really kind of like where we're at.
Tyler, have you listened to any of the new stuff? It just feels like it's up your alley. It kind of has that Newfound Glory kind of upbeat, happy rock. I don't know.
Okay. You know what, Sean? I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll
I don't know.
listen.
Take it, give it a shot. If not, you can always go back to Semisonic. They'll hold it down.
Well, Tyler, if people want to suggest more happy-go-lucky rock music to you, where can they do that?
I listened to Churches on the way home.
That's not what I was expecting, but okay.
Somebody on Twitter said that they were the voice of the British generation for the last decade,
Somebody clearly hasn't listened to enough Idols.
Ooh.
That's fair.
Check yourself.
Hey everybody, you can find my design and illustration work at rootpets.club. And as always, on the socials, Root Pets Club, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter.
Sean, if people want to create a compilation album with you, where can they do that?
You can find me on Instagram at TellySean.
And if you have more college rock from the 90s that you want to share with me, you can find me on the socials at TC Olmstead. All of these songs will be on the official No Repeat podcast playlist on Apple Music and Spotify. And we'll be back next week with another episode of No Repeat.